remembering old songs. This will be the first of 5 videos ending off this book. These are all recorded on the same day. So if I sound better and better throughout the videos of this week, in the start of October, that's why. God, I'm gonna have to read this much today. Jesus. I'm gonna have to take an hour break through each of these. First page is 165. It's gonna go to 180, I think. Let's see. Yep, goes to 180. Back up. Cool. It's only 16 pages, so I'll probably read through it. Our main character this time is Oscar. It was like Oscar. It was just like Oscar to be on the losing end of the deal. It has always been that way. From the time his dad went to the hospital for his tonsillectomy and contracted a fatal infection, to the time that they had to move to the cheaper end of town. To all the times Oscar had to help his mom in the Royal Oaks nursing home while the rest of his friends spent their allowances at the mall. So it was no surprise to Oscar when he learned that the plush trap chaser, a activated chomping green rabbit, and by far Oscar's favorite character from the FNAF Fazbear world, would go on sale on the most ridiculous day, at the most ridiculous time imaginable. Friday morning. Friday morning, Oscar steamed. Friday morning. Friday morning, Oscar steamed. Man, you gotta get over it, said Raj, kicking the same zone down the sidewalk. He'd been torturing the entire way down to school. The injustice of it, Oscar said. It's a kid's toy. Why would it go on sale when every kid in the known universe is in school? Oh. It's a kid's toy. Why would it go on sale when every kid in the known universe is in school? Oscar swatted at a low-hanging tree branch like it wronged him. Did you hear Dwight already got one? Did you hear Dwight already got one? Isaac said, bringing up the rear. Oh, you know what? I'm going to stop that voice. That's very confusing. This is going to be the voice for Oscar. This is going to be the voice for Raj. This is going to be the voice for Isaac. What? Raj stopped for a minute, now adequately outraged. He hadn't even heard of a FNAF Fazbear before last year. Apparently his dad made a call. His dad's always making a call, pouted Isaac. Dwight's a jerk, said Raj. And on this the boys all agreed. It was so much easier to hate Dwight than to admit that they were the types who had dads who could make calls to get ugly green rabbits that stood at the height of a toddler and maintain the speed of an actual rabbit. Wow, what the freak type of engineering is that? Anyways, we'll never get it. It's not if we have to wait until another 4 o'clock, Isaac said. We could, Oscar started, but Raj cut him off. No, we can't, he said. How do you... We can't ditch. It's not possible. I have 2 strikes already. One more, my mom's gonna send me to boot camp. Come on, she wasn't serious about that, Oscar said. Do you know my mom? Said Raj. One time my sister talked to her, and my mom wouldn't let her talk for a week. That didn't actually happen, Isaac chuckled. Oh no? Ask Avni? Avni? Who names their kid Avni? No. Avni. Like A-V-N-I. Who names their kid that? Like, I understand Aviana. Avni? Whatever. She says by the 6th day, it was like she forgot how to talk at all. Raj looked to a distance, haunted by a specter of his mother, while Oscar turned to Isaac. Don't look at me. I have to walk Jordan home. Oscar knew he couldn't argue with that one. Even as little brothers go, Jordan was okay. And Oscar knew for a fact that Isaac's mom would go nuclear if he even thought about leaving Jordan alone until she got home from work at 3 o'clock. There was no getting around it. Despite all of Oscar's big ideas, he knew he was too afraid to actually go through with it. Ditching school was a mortal sin to his mom, who fought hard for her own education while raising Oscar by herself. Oscar and his friends would have to wait until 4 o'clock. The day was agonizingly long. Mr. Tallis made the entire class recite the preamble of the Constitution over and over until they got it right. Miss Devani popped a completely unfair quiz on isotopes. Coach Riggins made them run laps around the field even though it was still muddy from the last rain. Oscar said maybe he'd never faced a more miserable day. I'm not tired, by the way. I'm just very, very sleepy. Then at 2:33 it got worse. 2 minutes before the final bell rang, Oscar was called to the front office. Now? He pleaded with Mr. Inquires. His geometry teacher shrugged, helpless to bail Oscar out, despite his being Oscar's favorite teacher. Sorry, Mr. Avila. Nobody had ever said sophomore year was cruelty-free. He turned to Raj and Isaac in the only class they ever shared since they met in the playground in the 3rd grade. Mustering all the strength, he tried not to choke on his sacrificial offering. Wait for me until 3:30. If I'm not back by then, the whole class sat and witnessed. Then go on without me. Raj and Isaac nodded solemnly, and Oscar scooped up the notebooks in the bag and cast one last glance at Mr. Inquires. I have a lot of good teachers this year. It's your mom, he murmured, patting. It's your mom, he murmured, patting Oscar firmly on his shoulder. Miss Inquires knew Oscar's mom sometimes needed Oscar's help at the Royal Oaks nursing home. He didn't know exactly what his mom's job was, but it had something to do with making sure the whole place didn't come undone. His mom was important. The secretary of the front desk was waiting impatiently for Oscar. Hold on. You should be able to hear me still. I'm just laying back. Secretary of the front desk was waiting impatiently for Oscar, the receiver already in hand. Thought you got lost, she said hewishly. Did you want to know why most parents get their kids cell phones? Oscar bared his teeth into something simulating a smile. I think she just likes hearing your voice on the regular, she said. Secretary matched his smile. Besides, phones aren't allowed at school. Not that we can afford one, he thought, not without a little venom toward the secretary. Oscar took the phone from her hand fast, because she looked like she was about to smack him with it. LM, Dr. Durovics isn't doing well today, Oscar's mom said. His mom only used his nickname LM code for little man when her need was dire. Not today. Mr. Durovics was possibly the world's oldest man, and when he was out of sorts, there were only a few people he could reason with him enough to get him to take his meds or eat something. For the inexplicable reason, Oscar was one of those people. Where's Connie? Oscar whined, preferencing the only old orderly whom Mr. Durovax responded. Prepare to Valerta where I should be, his mom said. Besides, he's asking for you. Oscar handed the phone back to the secretary, who already had her purse in hand, and she tapped her white Tim journal on the counter between them. I trust you resolve your crisis. I have to get to the toy box before they all sell out of plush traps. I have 5 nephews. It was almost too much for Oscar to bear. 5 fewer plush traps after Mrs. Beasley in his head, snagged whatever might be left of the undeserving nephews. Oscar dragged his feet in misery all the way to number 12 city bus, transferred to the 56th line, walked the quarter-mile from the bus stop to his mom's work, mopping into a lobby of the Royal Oaks nursing home. Irvin, sitting at his reception desk, nodded to him from under his headphones. "Dude, it in a bad way, big man," Irvin said loudly, his volume unchecked by his deep bass line venting from his playlist. "He says Marilyn wants to steal his soul." Oscar nodded. Irvin was well versed in the oddities of the Royal Oaks, including Mr. Durovich's chronic baseless paranoia. Hearing Irvin confirm what his mom had already told him on the phone, to alter Oscar's position of unconditional surrender. He would be here all afternoon, likely into the evening, trying to calm Mr. Durovich's the plush trap chaser. If he ever had the chance of getting it in the first place, he would never be his now. The automatic doors whished open. It revealed the back of his mom's tall figure. She handed a clipboard back to the orderly Oscar hadn't met before. This place went through orderlies like Oscar went through electric blue fruit punch. Electric blue fruit punch. What the freak is that? Like a gummy? Whatever. Make sure Miss Delia doesn't get any dairy after 4 p.m., his mom said. She'll fart so much we'll have to quarantine the room, and I promise you, I'll make sure you're the only one assigned to that wing through the entire night. What page did we start this on? Page 165. I'm going to cut it in half for 8. So it'd be 73. I'm fine. The new orderly nodded earnestly, clearly shaken, and hurried away for the clipboard just as Oscar's mom turned to smile at him. Arms extended. What was the secret about your mom? She could always be counted on for a hug, strong enough to crack ribs. Even the time she threatened to put bounty on Oscar's head after he rescued a bat and set it free in the house, and she still managed to hug him hard enough to make him sore for the next day. Mr. Durovich thinks Marilyn wants to steal his soul, I heard, Oscar said. After 18 years, you'd think Marilyn had earned the benefit of the doubt. No rest of truly suspicious, Oscar said, and his mom smiled at him. Thank you, little man. You're an angel. Mom, he said, looking around to make sure no one heard, even though the only ones who would have given him a hard time were miles away at the toy box, claiming the very last blood trap, no doubt. The thought of Raj and Isaac lining them up for epic chomping battles in the yard was pure agony. Oscar began to think about the compromises. Maybe if he gave Raj or Isaac half the amount, one of them would persuaded to let him take partial plush trap custody. Oscar managed a weak smile at his mom and wondered if the fates dispel on him a plush trap if they witnessed his angelic behavior. He knew better than to hope, though. When he arrived at Mr. Durovich's doorway, he found the old man staring into the corner of his room, his eyes trained in lasers, ready to vaporize. It started, Mr. Durovich said, his voice barely above a whisper. What started? Oscar said, not so much curious as eager to begin the process. She's been plotting this whole time. I should have known. She waited until I let my guard down. Come on, Mr. D. You don't really believe that. I can feel my soul slipping away. It's oozing out of my pores, Oscar. Mr. Durovich didn't sound afraid. Rather, he seemed resigned to his fate, and Oscar thought maybe they had something in common today. But why would she do that? Oscar asked. She loves you. She shared your room every night for almost 2 decades. Oh, don't you think she wanted your soul? she would have taken it by now. Trust cannot be rushed, young man, Mr. Derrick said. Good fortune cannot be predicted. It was these seeds of wisdom that kept Oscar interested in Royal Oak's longest-term resident. No matter how many times Mr. Derrick let some sad absurd slip, Oscar was surprised every time. Like Mr. Derrick could sense what was cupping Oscar's mind. Even if Mr. Derrick's own mind was like a sieve, his thought slipping through holes in the bottomless abyss. Maybe Marilyn isn't stealing your soul. Maybe she's guarding it. You know, like holding it for safekeeping. Oscar voiced. Mr. Derrick shook his head. I thought of that. It's a tempting theory, but she could have asked permission. These are the times when Oscar struggled, when logic had to win. I mean, it's not like she can clearly ask you, she said. Of course she can! Mr. Derrick raged, and Oscar put up his hands, trying to ease Mr. Derrick before the new orderly came scurrying around the corner. Okay, just stick with me. Okay, just stick with me for a minute, Mr. D, Oscar said, sneaking 2 steps into Derrick's room. Maybe, she thought. You know, since you were close enough that you wouldn't mind if she borrowed your soul for a bit. Mr. Derrick caught his eyes toward Oscar, suspicious. She didn't tell you to say that, did she? No, of course not. No one would come close to a relationship you have. Mr. Derrick looked into the corner of the room that held the attention of until that moment. Well, Marilyn, what do you have to say for yourself? Oscar followed Mr. Derrick's stare, and now they were both staring at the same ancient calico cat who had slept on a pillow by the window of Mr. Derrick's room. For as long as Mr. Derrick had slept in his own bed, she couldn't come here with Mr. Derrick. At least according to legend, she had been neighborhood stray. But one day the staff found her in the room, and without objection from the rotating cast of residents, Marilyn had remained, finding Mr. Derrick's company the most pleasing, despite his periodicism or downright hatred. No amount of scratching behind the ears or cabinet offerings by anyone else could entice her away from Mr. Derrick's. Okay, that's halfway through. Well, not really. I'm not doing the math on that because I'm too tired. Yes, I'll say I'm tired, okay? Actually, I'm gonna open up the book again because the thing he said very much caught me off guard. Where is it? Electric blue fruit punch. Is it a gummy? I'm good with a lot of things in life, just not gummies. Electric blue fruit punch. I'll look it up. Next Super Smash Brothers character leaked. I don't care. Electric blue fruit punch for baby shower. What? Oh, does he mean Hawaiian punch? I'm looking up images and it says nothing. Then again, I am very stupid. So. Oh, because I didn't spell it right. Blue fruit punch. Electric blue fruit punch. I spelled it properly this time. I got none. Some type of soda. A giant thing of some type of blue liquid that just says value on it. Hawaiian Punch, pucker powder, and a bunch of casings of sorts. No, none is a type of pill, but it says drink on it. But it's Japanese. I'm so confused. This kid's a weird kid. He drinks Japanese drink pills. This kid drinks the JDP. I'm gonna see how much they are. They look good. Well, they don't look good. They look interesting. Never fear the show. Okay, let's read the rest of this. I don't got any theories yet, except the fact that it's weird that Freddy Fazbear FNAF is branching out. Not branching out, but that what's it called? It's branching out. The FNAF in this series or this era of time. You know, after this, I gotta record. I'm gonna have to record a FNAF thing. I'm gonna have to record FNAF 3. This will come out at 10, but the next one will come out in about 3 hours. Let's say 3 o'clock. I don't know. Sit down, young man, sit down, Mr. Yurvik said, and Oscar let the past hope slip away. Oh, I'm sorry. Oscar followed Mr. Yurvik's stare, and now they were both staring at the same, and Chikao, okay. Maybe she really was after his soul. Marilyn blinked her slow cat blink at Mr. Dervick's. Well, I think we both know what that means, Oscar improvised for a second. Mr. Dervix looked confused, but after some commitment to the compilation over the loud purring of Marilyn, something inside him settled. All right, then. Seems Marilyn owes you yet another gratitude, young man. Marilyn stretched languidly on her chair and yawned. But Oscar wasn't looking for gratitude from the cat. He was looking for a way out. Sit down, young man, sit down, Mr. Dervick said, and Oscar let the last hope slip away. This was to be his afternoon. Oscar slumped in a chair closet to the door. Mr. Dervick stared at him in the watery eyes of an old man. My soul may be in trouble, he said, but your heart is stolen. Oscar tried to laugh. He didn't seem he might cry. It was just the latest in what was panning out in his lifetime of almost. He had almost made varsity baseball, and he dislocated his elbow. He had almost saved enough for a cell phone, but someone picked his pocket on the train. He had almost had a whole family, but then he lost his dad. If you could earn a trophy for almost, you'd probably fall just shy of the honor. Ah, yes, Mr. Dervix continued. Love is many splendid thing, until it crashes you into pieces. It's not like that, Miss Oscar said. It was ridiculous to set the record straight. Mr. Dervix might or might not even remember his conversation. He needed someone to know, needed someone to confide in him. Truly, he had never known a better listener than a man whom he was never once standing, whose first name he'd never even know. It's just a stupid toy, Oscar said. Even as he tried to diminish the plush trap, he felt his heart squeeze. It broke! It broke! Mr. Dervick said. It was never even mine, said Oscar, and Mr. Dervick nodded slowly. Marilyn began the long practice of cleaning herself. And I take it the toy will never be yours, Mr. Dervick said. Oscar felt ridiculous hearing it in those terms, hardly something that should be causing a 12-year-old to despair. It's not even that special, Oscar lied. But the toy is only the stem that breaks ground. But this toy is the only thing that stem that breaks ground or something gay like that. I don't know, I'm an old man. And Oscar looked up from his feet to stare into the old man's eyes. He might have been slipping into one of his lapses, but Oscar was surprised to see Mr. Durovix looking right at him. The reason for the wanting and what his lies underneath. It's the soil that feeds he wants. The want. Mr. Dervix leaned a little closer to Oscar, pressing his veiny arm against the guardrail enough to make Oscar nervous. I think you've tilled quite a lot of soil in your handful of years on this earth, he said. So much wanting, but you've never been able to pluck the fruits of your own labor from the ground, have you? Oscar was never any good at growing things. He killed every plant he tried to water, every fish he tried to nurture. I don't think you know. I don't think you know. I don't think you know, he started, but Mr. Dervix didn't let him finish. The best cultivators are the ones who know when the right time it is to pick the crop, he said. And Oscar was trying. He really was, but Mr. Dervix was losing him fast. Mr. D, you're real nice to try. Ugh, ugh. Mr. Dervix groaned like something hurt. He leaned back in his position against the rail and arched his back. Oscar could hear something pop deep inside the man's rickety bones. Marilyn paused her bath long enough to make sure Dervix was okay. A grower, maybe, but a thinker you're not, Mr. Dervix said to Oscar. Sometimes you just have to know when to go for it, even when it doesn't look possible. Oscar started at Mr. Dervix. Quit sitting there and go find your precious toy, Mr. Dervix yelled, his Belgian throat catching on the words. He began to hack. Marilyn wound herself onto the tight ball on her chair. The new orderly appeared out of nowhere, standing in the doorway, but reluctant to walk any closer. Was everything all right there, Mr. Depp? No, everything is not all right, you draft ferret. Go and get me a glass of water for the love of... The orderly scurried away, but Oscar couldn't seem to get up from his chair. He was frozen in place, contemplating the prophecy he'd received in a haze of cat hair and disinfectant. Wait, you don't think she looks like a ferret? No one would have face that small, Dervix said to Oscar. Wait, you don't think she looks like a ferret? No one should have a face that small, Mr. Dervix said to Oscar. But if it's sold out everywhere, Oscar said, his brain finally coming back online. Don't you young people have the internet? Or the computer phones and what's-its? Somebody has the stupid toy somewhere, Mr. Dervix said to Mr. Dervix, coughing up a little more Belgium. The point is quit tilling, and time to pick. The orderly returned with a small yellow cup, and Mr. Dervix took it from her roughly before turning on his side, his back to her and Oscar. Ireland poked an ear up, and to be sure he was well before resettling into her coil. In the space of 5 seconds, Mr. Vix was snoring loudly, his ribs rising and falling beside the threadbare pajamas. Looks like you tuckered him out, the orderly said to Oscar as they shuffled out the door, closing it behind them. You're my hero. Oscar felt dizzy by the time he made his way to the front desk. His mom was hustling down the hall with 3 orderlies in tow, each following her ducklings, struggling to keep up. You're a good soul, his mom said to Oscar without looking up for his clipboard. Oscar knew she meant it, though she was just busy. She calls the new orderly a ferret, Oscar said. His mom shrugged and mumbled something about the small face. Anyway, I told Raj and Isaac I'd meet up with them, Oscar said, slinging his backpack over his shoulder. Oh, anything fun happening? She asked, still absorbed in her paperwork. One of the orderlies was trying to get her attention. Oscar stared at the top of Mom's head, the gray streak that ran from her cowlick to the crown, suddenly looking larger, like age had poured over her head like she slept in one night. Nah, he said, nothing special. She cupped his chin gently on her palm, finally looking up, and Oscar smiled back because she was always trying her hardest, she always said. I'm sorry, I'm tired. He turned on his heel toward the door. Oh, Oscar, can you pick up some Sorry, Mom, gotta run, Oscar said as he fled the lobby and returned to the safety of the vestibule. He was almost out of the door when Irvin, still bobbing his head whatever played in his ears, yelled over the music. You got a message, he said. Huh? Said Oscar. What? Said Irvin, then pulled his headphones around his neck. You got a message from the short one. What's his name? Isaac? He called here for me? Oscar said, utterly confused. He couldn't remember a single time his friends had ever tried reaching him here, even though it seemed like he spent just as much time in the Royal Oaks as he did in his own home. If anything, sometimes Raj or Isaac would wait for Oscar to finish helping his mom, wasting time at the vestibule while Irvin ignored him. Said you gotta meet him at the mall. Something about a trap? Irvin said. The mall, not the toy box. Then what? When did they call? Oscar demanded, which got Irvin's attention. Well, let me check the messaging service, he said, reaching an imaginary memo pad. Sorry, it's just 10 minutes, maybe? Irvin said, softening. 10 minutes. If it took them 20 minutes on the bus, another 10 to walk on the bus all the way to the mall, there might still be time to get there before they close. I gotta go. Have fun. Whatever, Irvin said, as he pulled back his headphones back over his ears. The doors already swishing closed behind Oscar. Oscar danced around the bus stop like he wanted to pee, leaning off the sidewalk into the street to see if he could spot a merrily passing bus. Drivers honked him out of the way, and he could barely notice him. Finally, the number 56 bus arrived, slowing to an agoningly long stop and sighing down the curb. It was standing room only. Oscar felt irrational fury toward anyone who dared to pull a stop cord. It seemed there wasn't a 2-block stretch there where they didn't stop to let someone on or off. And Oscar was about to burst with impatience when the small stop finally came. He was so eager to get off he nearly forgot to pull the cord for himself. Okay, that's the end of this episode. We'll learn if Oscar makes it to the mall or not. I have to go record a Five Nights at Freddy's 3 video and also a reaction video. So, and yes, there is going to be a reaction video tomorrow. So, tomorrow morning, don't get used to the 2 videos per day thing. This is only going to be like this because I feel bad for the reading. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a reaction video because of, the new FNAF coming out. I've seen the trailer a little bit, but I'll just be talking about it basically. Aside from that, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Don't die to coronavirus. Beep 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 beep. Womp.